Oh man, my back just now. It's just these chairs. It's fantastic.
What is going on with your back? You've had back issues in the past, right? We talked about that the last time you came on.
Well, I was born scoliotic, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like I just bought my own pen along so I could click the shit. You remember? Here, take all devices away from me.
I can't believe you remember. You remember clicking on the pen? That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I'm a fidget, you know. So I let me take everything off. So it's not good. Oh yeah, born slightly scoliotic, and then of course I banged myself up over the years, you know.
Of course. Do they do anything other than surgery for people with scoliosis?
They do, because I don't want to do surgery. Once you start opening stuff up and fooling with it, there's no going back.
Especially the back.
Yeah.
Back's a rough. I've never met anybody that had like fusions or anything where it turned out good.
No. And like Hippocrates, you know, the father of medicine, he said, in any ailment, look first to the spine. And it was like, he's kind of right. It emanates from the core.
Well, if your back is fucked up, everything's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how strong your arms and legs are, if your back is fucked up, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's true. Your brain, everything goes to hell.
Yeah, well, you're in pain all the time.
Yeah.
People with back problems, like, they can't think straight because you're always like, you know, it's always.
There's a gift to not thinking straight.
Tell me more. I want to know.
Well, it actually takes you down some pretty weird paths, you know. If you're happy all the time, I don't know. You don't have to strive to find thoughts to make yourself happy.
Right.
So it's like it's a good predisposition, I think.
I agree to that. Yeah, I think being happy all the time is it's kind of an unlikely scenario.
No, nobody is.
Yeah.
No, but we all want it. You notice we all yearn for it. There's this that's the only thing we all want, right?
Right.
Just happiness, little peace.
Well, it's also we're shown it, like in television and movies.
Sure.
Like we're shown happiness as this goal. Like seek happiness.
Sure.
Should be happy all the time. Happy. Should never be upset.
No. Well,
it's not realistic.
It's completely unrealistic. However, it's nice to have those little journeys through art where you can actually explore those things. You can explore your ids, you can explore happiness, and so you can experience the opposite. I look at situations around me and I generally feel pretty grateful from what some people go through. I'm grateful. And everybody's got their crap, you know. But like this morning, for example, I would be surprised if my home is still there.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. The Palisades is on fire.
Yeah.
My friend Tom Segura, his house is gone.
Yeah.
This is where he used to live. He sold it, luckily.
Yeah, I have a son. He's in the sort of volunteer fire brigade. Milo, I call him the mayor of Malibu. And he's running around. And I asked him, how's things looking there, Milo? He says, not good, Pops. He says, your neighborhood. And he sent me a video of my neighborhood. And it's in flames. It looks like an inferno. So, yeah.
Do you think this will get you out of California finally?
Yeah, maybe. You know.
Where are you going to go?
Oh, I don't know. I got a place in Costa Rica. I love it
there.
Yeah.
Costa Rica's nice.
Yeah, I bought there many years ago. And it's in a real nice spot. It's not too touristy or, dirt roads. So it's off the beaten.
Does it feel safe out there?
Pretty safe. I think, look, no place is safe. I mean, you've got the Darien down there, you know.
What's that?
It's kind of in the, what's the next country down? Panama. Mm-hmm. And there's this no man's land where the Colombians come through, and it's like, all kinds of dirty dealings in the jungle with, who knows, drugs and mules and, Yeah. So, it can be dangerous, and I've heard of danger happening there. You hear about somebody getting chopped up by a machete. And Costa Rica is actually a cool place because it never had a culture of death like a lot of the Central American countries did. They have a culture of death, Even Mexico, I mean, they used to, tear people's hearts out in pyramids.
Aztecs.
All that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Aztecs were like the Romans, the Mayans were like the Greeks, but they all sort of dabbled in some stuff. Costa Rica always had a policy where they... It was like the Switzerland of Central America. They emphasized education and health, and everybody's literate, and It's kind of interesting in that way. But it deals with its own little troubles.
Yeah, well,
like every country, corrupt.
Anywhere down in that part of the world is just like there's so much sketchy shit going on all around you.
Yeah, there can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, one has to be forewarned, forearmed, all that, So I have a nice place down there.
Yeah, I have some friends that have a place in Mexico. And I'm always like, don't you ever worry?
Yeah, I worked in Mexico a couple of times. I was down there, and it was in Veracruz. And apparently, people were rolling heads into bars and stuff like that, rival gangs and stuff. And they said, I'd go for a walk, And they'd say, you're crazy going for a walk. You'll get kidnapped. I said, I'm not going to get kidnapped. I'm the guy that pays. You're going to get kidnapped. And I'm not going to pay your ransom. So it's like, I never felt insecure in that way. And, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If your number's up. I know. I used to watch guys who do what I do for a living, and they'd have a phalanx of bodyguards around them, and like for security and stuff. And I used to have that stuff for a little while, but it doesn't make any difference. You're going to be okay.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not, right? Yeah. Until you're not.
Until you're not.
And everybody's going to be okay until they're not.
Yeah. I got in a dodgy situation one night, and I acted crazy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What happened?
If you act crazy, everybody leaves you alone.
Especially if you are a little crazy. If they know that.
You're in a stress mode, so you actually get angry. If I feel like I'm threatened, I get angry, which is what happens. And then you get really in people's faces, and they think, this guy's crazy. But all the old cultures thought that, like when there were people traveling across the Great Plains to go west, if you acted nuts, they'd leave you alone because they didn't want your evil spirits.
Oh. So what happened with you?
Oh, nothing. They left me alone.
But where was this?
Oh, man, I was in a bad neighborhood. It was when I first got into L.A., and I was to go to dinner with Costa Gavras. He was a Greek director. I went the wrong way. And it was before they had, phones with
right.
All that stuff. So
a Thomas guide.
It was the Thomas guide anyway. I wasn't guided well by Thomas. I ended up in the wrong place. And then my muffler fell off. And I was driving a Mercedes, pretty nice sporty car, And I thought, and I had the wife in the car. And I pulled into a side street. The sun was going down. And as I got out of the car, I thought, I got to fix this muffler. I can't just drag it. People started coming from houses. And they came up to me, and I saw them coming in the rearview mirror. And I jumped out of the car and got in their face. And I said, what the fuck do you want? Because I felt threatened.
Right.
And the guy said, man, I'm just looking for some money. You got any money? So I was being mugged. And it was like, I thought, I'll think about it when I'm fucking finished, And I opened the trunk. And this is the weird part, Joe. I will never quite understand this. I opened the trunk to see what I could find to help me put the muffler back on. And sitting there, the only two things in the back of the trunk was a pair of wire cutters and a coat hanger. It's exactly what I needed, and I don't know why it was there. That's weird, isn't it?
That's very weird. So
Very
you used the coat hanger to wire up your muffler?
Yep. I cut a piece of wire, wired the muffler up. The whole time, more guys are coming.
Jesus
and
Christ.
They're standing behind me, and I'm feeling like, oh. And anyway, I get up, I finish the muffler, slam, and I'm acting mad and crazy the whole time. And they think, this guy's nuts. And I get back to the car, and my wife gives me a handful of cash. And I thought, what's this? She says, it's just fives and ones. Give it to him. So I threw it and drove off. But it was looking hairy for a minute. And you never know.
What year was this?
Oh, my God. Back in the 90s.
So things are more dangerous now.
I think they are.
Yeah. I think so, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we were just talking about the wildfire situation and how crazy it is that they spent $24 billion last year on the homeless.
Yeah.
And what did they spend on preventing these wildfires?
Zero.
Not zip.
Zip. And in 2019, I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. Mm-hmm. And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And like, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Personally ruined it.
Well, it's the same team that was up in San Francisco, and they came down to L.A. and they're doing what they did in San Francisco. And San Francisco's kind of like apocalyptic now,
Yeah.
I went there and it's just like people, homeless. It's a mess.
It's just unbelievable that society can crumble that quickly. Mm-hmm. It really is unbelievable.
It doesn't take long.
No.
Yeah. I read a book once by Jared Diamond called Collapse. Mm-hmm. You ever read that book?
Yeah.
Crazy, right? It says all the things you need for a civilization to cave in and collapse. And a lot of the things are present. All those earmarks, the precursors of a collapse, they're present in our time. So it's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
And we're no smarter than our grandparents, I don't think.
Well, that brings me to one of my favorite movies of yours, is Apocalypto.
Oh, yeah.
When the Mayans were running things, like, who could have ever thought when they had such an incredibly sophisticated society, unbelievable construction, like the stuff that they had built, that one day you would just walk through there and there's nothing. Nothing and nobody.
In fact, there's something, because it's interesting. Somebody was flying by what they thought was a volcano in the 30s, some buzzboy. And he thought, hey, somebody built that. Wait a minute, there's 4 by 8 foot bricks. That's man-made. And it is literally the biggest pyramid in the world. It's bigger than the ones in Egypt, and it's in Guatemala.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. Yeah, it's a recent discovery, right?
Well, not that recent. I was, maybe 20 years ago, I visited. I went down there with the archaeologist, a guy named Richard Hansen, who's from Idaho or someplace, and he's down there with his family. He's been working tirelessly for like 30 years trying to extract this pre-classic city from the jungle, and there's not a bunch of tourists. All the pyramids in Tikal would fit inside the one big pyramid in El Mirador.
Really?
Yeah, it's a monster. And so that tells you that the pre-classic civilization was bigger and grander and more sophisticated than the civilizations that came after it.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Well, it is unbelievable how, like, when the accounts of, like, people that visited Mexico and visited the Aztecs, like, what the markets looked like and how insane it was and how gorgeous it was, and then just...
Yeah.
Disease.
Yeah, disease. Or I don't know if it was disease or what. I think the people were pretty dissatisfied. It would have been hard for Cortez, with his limited numbers, to actually take over a civilization like that unless they kind of happened upon a civilization that was pretty dissatisfied with the way things were going.
Yeah.
So I think they had people to help them sort of
I'm
rebel.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you're making a movie like Apocalypto, I mean, that's a crazy undertaking. You're making an entire movie where there's no English in it at all, and it's a blockbuster.
Yeah, it's cool. It was fun.
That's one of the best movies, man. It's a fucking great movie.
Well, because I think it's scary because nobody's speaking your language. And you're looking at indigenous peoples and because they're not speaking your language, you totally kind of buy it. And you can buy the horror and the primal nature of the story you want to tell. Mm-hmm. And really, it's just a series of fears, one after the other, being chased by, scary guys, or eaten by wild animals, or, hit by blowgun. It's all like a series of these things. But I think basically what I was doing was trying to talk about our time now and the civilization that we live in, and how close are we to collapse, and what are the things that lead to collapse. It's environmental stuff, it's human sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that.
Kinda.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We just dress it up.
Yep.
When you find out medications are killing people and they keep prescribing them, and they do it for money, that's kind of sacrifice. When you find out that wars are irresponsible.
They're not just wars.
Not just.
No.
They're for money.
We send our young people over there to die. Mm-hmm. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for not. I mean, I love this. I love the warrior. I love the warrior, but I hate the war.
Yeah.
And
Well, we hate an unjust war.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a mess, but the human sacrifice aspect is alive and well in our society, I think.
It really is. It's just dressed up in a different way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, rhetoric around it. But they've always been able to justify it. Like in Apocalypto, it was like, yeah, so the crops will be better. Hey, we'll just,
Yeah, kill a few people.
Yeah. And then I had all these people come out of the woodwork. Hey, we're archaeologists and scientists, and that never happened. So there's this revisionism about it, too, that it didn't happen. But there are accounts from the time where, yes, people did witness these things. And of course, I had a battery of archaeologists and scientists and professors on my own that say, yeah, well, this stuff did happen, and here's the the depictions of it in paintings and images, and so it's like, it did happen. So
when you set out to make a movie like that, like first of all, what brings you to that? Did you get the script first? Like was it an idea that you had in your head?
It was it just came from in here. And I was working on something, and a buddy of mine said, so what do you want to do next? I said, man, I want to direct something. And I always want to direct a chase film. He said, what kind of chase? I said, a foot chase. He said, what? I said, yeah, people chasing you. I mean, there's something kind of primal and scary about a foot chase. And I think in order to have a foot chase, you can't have a society where there's any kind of cars or anything like that. Otherwise, you have a car chase. But I want to film a foot chase like it's a car chase. And he said, oh. I said, what are you thinking? I said, well, I'm thinking if you go back before Columbus discovered America, And it's like people assume that Columbus discovered America and then life began. I said, I want to know what was happening right before he got there. And I said, so I had this idea that you see all this stuff going on and there's no time period on it, and then all of a sudden you date it by the arrival of Europeans. And I thought, it's kind of like the Rod Serling, Planet of the Apes ending.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of a cool ending. And he said, oh, wow. And he said, where do you think Columbus landed? I said, let's look. So I looked up, and the first peoples he encountered were Mayan trading canoes off the coast of Honduras. And I thought, cool, what was happening in Honduras, And you look at these towns and pyramids and temples and stuff at that time. And then the story was born from there. And, of course, then we read the book by Jared Diamond, Collapse. I read the Mayan Bible, the Popol Vuh, and, tried to delve into what they believed and what their civilization was like. And they had concepts, as we do, of heaven and hell, of punishment or reward, It was a little different, quite a bit different, actually. In fact, when I went down to the archaeological sites at El Mirador, they dug something up. And it was like, well, what is it? And I thought, we don't know. There was this carved image in the stone of this Mayan warrior drinking, and he had an ear spool. And it was like, So they dug further and further, and it went like 26 meters down. And it was the entire story of the Popol Vuh, of the twins going into hell and getting their father's head and swimming back. And it's this crazy story. And it kind of dated that book, because I think it was almost 3,000 years old, this mural, this carving. So it tells you that the story is pretty old. And they thought initially it was probably back in the 1300s, but this confirmed that it was at least 2,600 years old, something like that. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. That to be there when they're digging that stuff up is mind-blowing.
Well, they're missing so much of the Mayan history. It's very interesting. You want some coffee?
I want some water.
That's water right there.
Water.
They're missing so much of the Mayan history, because everybody's gone. But you ever see the very bizarre carving where it looks like there's a guy who's sitting in a cockpit of a spaceship,
yes,
like looking through some sort of an eye thing?
Yeah, they got some weird stuff. It's like
weird.
Yeah.
Where there's fire underneath the chair. Like, what is that?
They got dudes that look like Europeans. They have these guys with red beards and helmets and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like these Phoenician guys who probably traveled over there early on.
Yeah.
Probably maybe in the 6th century or something like that. So it wasn't that long a boat ride. So they probably went over there and made contact, and they thought they were gods or something, and then they went away again, and they said, well, wait for them to come back. And, of course, they did come back, but it didn't work out the same.
No. Well, there's so many accounts of, people visiting, especially when you get into the Amazon.
Sure. Oh, I don't know about the Amazon.
Oh, my God.
Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, the Amazon used to be filled with people.
Yeah.
And most of the Amazon is man-made. The jungle in the Amazon is agriculture.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The jungle in the Amazon, they didn't even know this until fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
And they now know from flying over, they use LiDAR, which is this light-emitting radar. Yeah. So when they use this laser radar shit, when they fly over it, they're finding all these grids and pathways and cities in the jungle. So the jungle had consumed all of these cities. I think there was millions and millions of people living in the Amazon.
Yeah.
And that Europeans came over, diseases, everybody dies, jungle consumes the city. People come back 200 years later looking for it, like the lost city of Z, like that story.
You're right. Yeah.
They go back to look, and there's nothing left.
Yeah, guns, germs, and steel.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. I'll have to look into that.
And we're going through all those things right now: guns, germs, and steel.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Germs.
Yeah.
Oh God. The germs. I'm just on the tail end of some hideous flu that was going. I don't know.
Did you get the H5N1 or whatever the fuck it is?
I don't know what the hell. Yeah, I've had that. That was the swine thing. Mm-hmm. I had swine flu one time.
Did you have that in 2009?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was around then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an epidemic, a pandemic, whatever you want to call it, but it didn't have the same sort of press releases that COVID did.
Sure. I got the swine flu. I acted more like a pig. It's terrible. Terrible. Wallowing in my own mud.
So I like Flight Risk. It's a fun movie.
Oh, it's a hoot. It's a hoot. I mean, I think the first thing you got to do with any film, and I think it's incumbent upon all directors, artists, to entertain first, in some fashion. Even if it's a heavy story, you have to find some aspect of it that entertains. And I think this, for entertainment's sake, is just fun, and it's quick. I'm not subjecting you to 4 hours of like watching autism dry.
Right.
It's like it's 85, 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and
it's a good time.
Yeah, and Mark is insane.
Yeah, he's great in it. He plays a good psycho.
Oh, he's a psychopath. Mark's got a good dark side. There's some dark stuff there that he was able to draw from, and every now and then he'd let it out. I can't even repeat some of the stuff he'd say. In fact, we had to cut most of it out. It was like really sick, but we hint at it. Anyway,
when you make a movie now, I mean, you've had such a career.
Yeah.
When you make a movie now, like what motivates you at this point in your life? Like how do you decide? Let's hit the green light on this one.